Okay, so we just got our first snow of the season up here in Ohio, and I think that officially means it's soup season. I think there's no better option right now than to just make a giant, big old batch of potato leek soup. And when I say a big batch, I mean like, yeah, I'm making like, I don't know, 10, 12 quarts of this. Make some for me, make some for the homies. Yeah, we're gonna make some soup. I've also got a bunch of potatoes here. I'm not gonna lift a bag of potatoes. We're just gonna jump right into it. So first thing we wanna do before we even touch any of these leeks or potatoes is roast some garlic. Potato leek soup doesn't normally have garlic in it, but I decided that I think it might taste pretty good, so we're gonna try it out. So I've got a whole bulb of garlic that I've peeled most of the paper off of. That papery layer, as much of that it'll peel off as possible without, while still keeping the whole bulb intact. And we're just gonna chop it so that all the cloves have their tops cut off and they're exposed. And then you're just gonna set the bulb on some foil, drizzle some olive oil over it, wrap it up. Then we're gonna throw this guy in the oven, 400 degrees for, I don't know, like an hour-ish. Now, leeks are pretty dirty. You can see there's a fair amount of dirt just kind of caked inside and around these guys. And normally what you would want to do is wash them first. However, since we're just going to be rough chopping these, I'm actually going to cut them up and then I'm going to throw them in a bowl and wash them. So I'll show you that. We're just going to rough cut right about to where it starts getting white. You can discard that. I'm going to do this 8 more times. And I seem to have lived in a fantasy land where I thought 9 leeks were going to fit into a colander. That's 3. I don't think we're going to get 6 more in there. So I'm going to figure out a different bowl to put these guys in. Okay, so what I ended up doing here is just putting all the leeks into my stock pot and then just filling that with water, swirling them around, and then straining them back into the colander where they can sit pretty nicely heaping. So yeah, that's a good little trick to do that, but you're probably not going to make a batch this big, so it's not that big a deal. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is peel and dice like 5 pounds of potatoes. That's going to take a while, and I don't think you guys really want to watch that, so I'm just going to cut this and go listen to some Chuckle Sandwich, and I'll see you guys back in a minute. By the way, I don't expect you guys to use this recipe at its full size, so you can do roughly a third of what I'm doing to get like a normal sized portion of soup. I might even, if I forget, you guys can tell me in the comments to remind me and edit it back into the video description. I'll put like a normal person portion recipe of the soup. So, let me know, because I'll forget.
On what fucking planet do you see me putting a butt plug with a foxtail in my ass, mate?
In my there's so many good berries and nuts out there, man.
What?
Yeah, scurry around.
Am I hearing this shit?
Yeah, Nick wants
Okay, so we are at our stove. We've got our big stock pot. I've got a whole ass stick of butter that I've got melted in here. And we're just gonna dump all of our leeks in here. Try not to make a mess. Just gonna stir this and just let it cook down. It's gonna take a little bit, but this is all gonna wilt. And once it's wilted, we'll know we're at the next step. Okay, so as you can probably tell, maybe not, let me see if I can wave some of that away. This is cooked. This is cooked down considerably. So now what we're gonna do is just add everything else. So we're gonna start with our potatoes. This was poor choice. Then we've got our roasted garlic, which we're going to squeeze out into this just like a paste. And then we're just going to start adding our chicken stock. So that ended up being 6 quarts of chicken stock. And like I said, this is a pretty massive recipe, and you can scale this down however you need to. Whether you have it or third it, it'll scale down just fine. So we're just going to give all this a stir. And there's one last thing that I want to add here. And that's our herbs. Now I got a mixture of sage, thyme, and rosemary. I just got one of those like blister packs of like poultry seasoning, or like poultry herb mix from the grocery store. And I don't want to deal with fishing everything out. So I don't have any twine, but I made a bouquet garni, which is just, herbs tied together. And I just use cheesecloth. So it's kind of like half a bouquet garni and half a sachet. So I'm just going to throw this in there. I'm going to mix all this up. And you'll notice I haven't seasoned it yet. That's because this is such a big batch that I kind of want to wait just a little bit until it's a little more come together before I start seasoning it. Just to make sure I don't overdo it, because as always you can add but you can't take out. So we're going to let this come up to a boil, let it cook until the potatoes are nice and soft, and we'll get to the next step. Yes, we've had this going for quite some time, and the potatoes are fork tender. And so now the next step is to just puree the soup, puree the potatoes and the leeks all into just one, homogeneous emulsified form. Now for you guys, it's going to be pretty easy. You can just use an immersion blender or a standard blender. For me though, I'm going to have to get a little creative here, because this is a lot of soup. Alright, so I got it all pureed. That was a bit of an experience. Pro tip, guys, if you wrap your bouquet garni in a cheesecloth and you decide to puree your soup with an immersion blender, make sure you take the bouquet garni out. My dumbass forgot about it, and it got logged in the blender and splattered soup everywhere, and I burned the absolute shit out of myself. So, don't do that, or remember to do that. You know what I mean. Anyway, so we've got this relatively pureed now. So now we're just going to add heavy cream to it. I'm using about a quart because I have so much. After we get all this added in, I'm going to go ahead and season it to taste, just salt, pepper, and actually some MSG, because MSG, unlike what we were taught to believe in the 90s, isn't actually that bad for you. And it's pretty damn delicious. So salt, pepper, MSG, season it to taste. That's on you, however you like it to taste. Get this all mixed back up. We're going to bring it back up to a simmer, let it cool. It'll be good to serve. Okay, so I actually ended up not just bringing it to a simmer, but letting it simmer for a little bit longer just to reduce it and help those flavors develop a little bit more. And then we're back over here. We got some soup in a bowl. I did chop up some chives as a garnish, and we're gonna give it a taste. Yeah, that's really good. I think that about does it for today. Shout out to all the Patreon homies. Don't forget that you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month and get early access to every single one of my videos before they go live on YouTube. Otherwise, like, subscribe, those buttons tell YouTube you like me. And I think that's about it. Love y'all. See you soon.